In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 things we recently added to designing and building our tables, and hopefully it's going to help you in your epoxy river journey and help you to build better tables. Let's go. So there's 3 additional things we've added recently in our workshop that's helping us building the perfect tables for all our clients. Now, it's not going to be in any specific order, but I'm going to share with you our journey from where we came from to where we are currently in our journey for manufacturing river epoxy tables. Now, the first things first, closing the small little cracks and holes inside your table that's not perfect. Now, the way we used to do it before is we would use the same color epoxy that we're doing our project with. We will drip small little amounts of epoxy into all the cracks to fill those cracks. Now, the overflowing epoxy over that crack normally leaves a stain on top of your wood, about 50% of the time. When you come and sand it down and you put your oil, literally only the manufacturer will notice this, but there will be a slight stain in color on that specific crack or hole you're filling. Now, then we moved to rather using color epoxy as the same color as our project, we would start using clear epoxy. Now that worked much better, but we would still have that little slight stain of the epoxy on top of the wood. Now, the solution for this is when we get our slab back from our CNC supplier where they flatten our top, before we do anything, we would come and do a slight thin layer over the whole complete surface. Well, except for over the epoxy, because it's not necessary. So we would do a very thin layer of epoxy over the complete surface of our table. Then, luckily for us, we would use the natural sunlight to a level where we can see all the small little imperfections and holes, and we will use that to fill all the small little cracks. Like you see in front of me, we're busy with a 6-seater table, and all the little cracks and holes is already filled. Now when I'm going to sand this off, there will literally be no stained wood because I literally stained the whole wood. That's basically what it is. Now moving to the next item I want to share with you. So the next item on our list is always keep a little bit of epoxy that's exactly the same color as your project, close by, in stock. If something is going wrong by the end of your project, you do have some stock available. So the reason why I'm bringing up this point is on our previous video, the black epoxy video we built, I mentioned that that was the most difficult table we built to date. This was absolutely by far the most difficult table we built to date. The reason for that is one day before delivery, I found 2 small little imperfections in the middle of the table, about 5 millimeters inside. And I told the client we are not ready for delivery. I ended up drilling 2 small little holes into the epoxy, filling that with clear epoxy. When I oiled it, you can see the exact same drilling marks in the epoxy. I ended up doing the same method 4 times, trying to mix exactly the same black color, and it was a total disaster. And we did end up fixing the table perfectly. After 4 attempts, we mixed the same color 100%. But the tip I want to give you is, and where we previously came from, our first epoxy video, I did mention to mix your color into your main batch. And I'm going to leave a link now if you want to go and check that video out. It's basically the video that's busy putting us on the map for YouTube. So go and support us, go and check it out. Anyway, I do want to encourage you not to use that method because we're obviously evolving in our epoxy journey. The way we've done it before is we would take our main batch of epoxy, of resin, then we would add our pigment or color into the epoxy and we would mix it through, and that will guarantee the exact same color on each pour you're going to do if you're going to pour layers. If you're going to do a deep casting epoxy, it's a different story. But for us, We pour layers every 4 to 6 hours. Now the problem with this system is, if you're going this route, you're going to sit with small amounts of epoxy on each project, which is obviously beneficially not good for us, because if we're doing 10 tables, we can add all the small little epoxy amounts together and we will sit with another full batch of epoxy. Now, the way we currently do it is we would use a bucket, we would put our pot A and our pot B into the bucket, then we will add our drops into the bucket. Now the problem with this is you still don't have a little bit of epoxy left if something is going wrong at the end of your project. Now, the way we're currently doing it from now on forward is we will get our bucket, we will add our pot A, which is our resin, into the bucket, then we will add our drops into this batch, we will mix it, we will get a small container, we will put it in a container, then only after that we will add our pot B, which is our hardener. Once you add your pot B, the chemical reaction will start to take place, and that's when your epoxy will start to set over a few hours or days or whatever your specification from your manufacturer is. So hopefully this will help you. Now, I know for a fact if I've got a problem on this table, I've got a little bit of epoxy with me that's exactly the same color for this table. That's going to save my ass at the end of the day. So the last item on our list is, and also a question we get a lot from our fans and our followers, is how do we fasten our steel base to the underside of our table? That's very easy. We used to use coach screws. Now coach screws we would obviously position in different spots on our tables, and we would fasten it directly into the support beams of our steel frame, but we stopped using this method. Then we used the angle irons. So we would typically use an angle iron, we will cut it into small pieces, then we will position it into different spots of the table where we think the table obviously needs to be fastened. Now you're obviously not going to fasten a threaded insert right into the epoxy section of the table, because if you're going to look from the top side, you're obviously going to see there's a threaded insert. Now we stopped using that method, and something I want to share with you, we are going to do from this table on forward, is adding base plates in between our steel frame and our wooden table. So we would weld this base plate on our steel frame. It basically means that where we typically had only one fastening point here on our table with the threaded inserts and the angle iron, now we have 4 points which will support this whole section of the table. And the good thing about this is you will never in your life twist this base plate, and you will never twist this beam if this beam is properly welded to your steel legs. Now this is something I feel that's definitely going to help us in improving our systems and our builds for our customers, and it's something I think that's really a big game changer, not only for us but hopefully for someone that's watching these videos. It's something that's definitely going to help us in building the perfect table. Now if one of these 3 tips is going to help you in better building your tables, leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you, and remember to support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you next week with a super cool project. Thanks guys, cheers.